Okay, for classes this week, since we're doing everything online, I want to talk a little bit about the martial arts in general, probably more so than any other athletic endeavor. Martial artists work out on their own by themselves more than anybody else. As a matter of fact, probably half, and some systems more, some systems less, of karate, kung fu, taekwondo, silat, kali, all of those different systems base their requirements on training on your own, training by yourself. And we do that by doing forms or katas or patterns or whatever you want to call them. But there's a reason why we do this. Hundreds of years ago, up till even pretty recently, governments would come through and start outlawing any type of self-defense or martial art classes. And the reason for that was because the governments or the warlords or whoever did not want the people coming back and fighting them. The governments knew they were going to be doing things the people, if they knew how to fight, if they knew how to defend themselves and they knew how to make war, would come back and overthrow them. And we see that today in different countries. We even saw that almost here in the United States not too long ago in Virginia, where they said that we're going to outlaw martial arts. And the reason for that is because they know that the people are going to come back, and they don't want that to happen. So traditionally, when forms or katas got started, just as the Japanese example goes anyway, when the Japanese would take over a country, or they would even take over a village in Japan, the warlords would outlaw the martial arts because, again, they didn't want people coming back and fighting them again. So what people were doing is they would go off into the woods or in secret and train by themselves. And that's how these forms came about, because the peasants, the farmers, the townspeople couldn't go out like they were maybe used to and train someplace, get with their friends and have a regular class to learn how to defend themselves. So they would go off into the woods, or they would do these things in private. And the Japanese government at the time would even offer rewards to people that would turn in those who were practicing the martial arts. And so they were very, very secretive. They were very clannish on all the stuff that they do. And even today, as we look at some of the martial arts systems that we train in, and some of the different forms that we do, there are a lot of hidden techniques. And the reason there are hidden techniques in these systems or in these forms is because if someone happened to be watching them, they didn't want the other person to know exactly what they were doing. Now, in Malaysia, the Philippines, they would do dances. Instead of forms, they would do these big dances. Sometimes they'd have streamers hanging off their wrists. And as they did these dances, it just looked like it was a dance. But really, these were fighting techniques they were practicing. So the martial arts, again, probably half of what we do, or again, sometimes even more than that, for rank certifications, is being able to do these forms. And the good thing about these forms is, again, you can practice them at home. You don't need a lot of room. You don't need a huge backyard. It doesn't have to be dry outside. It doesn't have to be perfect conditions. You can really do a lot of this stuff in the bathroom, believe it or not. So that much space is your training area. And there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of times there are even things that are good with that. We're going to go through some techniques here in a few minutes that I call them over-the-shoulder techniques, and we're going to do those in a mirror. So you can kind of see some of the ways you can practice in front of a mirror. Again, more so than probably any other than maybe dance, any physical activity where you can use a mirror, the martial arts is it, because we're constantly checking to make sure that our techniques are right. I see a lot of people that will punch like this. So their hand is up. The bottom of their hand is even with the bottom of their forearm. Well, at this point, you see that I'd be punching with my knuckles first. So if I hit something, my hand is likely to come back this way. The correct way to punch is the top of my fist is even with the top of my forearm. And my first two knuckles are the ones that are hitting from this position. Now, if I'm doing a vertical fist, maybe I'm using my bottom knuckles more, so I'm rolling this up. But for a lot of the stuff that we're doing, the top is flat, and I'm hitting just with those first two knuckles in the beginning. Now, again, later on, maybe I'm hitting with one knuckle, or I'm hitting with my front finger, my middle finger. But I don't want to be here. And that's one of the things you can see in a mirror. If my punch is not correct, it's easy for me to correct it immediately just by watching myself in the mirror. It's also a great idea as far as being able to hit what you're aiming at, so focusing your techniques. A lot of times as people are punching, they're just throwing their hand out there. They know that their hand is supposed to go that direction, and that's good enough. And the difference between a beginner martial artist and an advanced martial artist is little things. It's just tweaking little things to make it correct. Again, if I'm punching like this, that might be the way a beginner would do something. For an advanced martial artist, now we're hitting with that hand snapping over so my knuckles are hitting correctly. My wrist is straight. I'm going to the solar plexus, or I'm going to the chin, or the nose, or the groin. So it just looks different if I do it correctly. And all of those things can be done in the mirror. So let's do some mirror techniques. Okay, over the shoulder techniques. I'm going to be in a horse stance, and we'll cover all of our stances in a little bit. But I'm looking into a mirror. My hands are in the correct positions at my hip bones for now. I'll punch out. My hand should go right to my solar plexus. Now again, this is about the length I've got, in my home anyway, between me and my mirror in the bathroom. My sink is in front of me. But I can practice my techniques here, to the chin, to the nose. And if my punch is off, you can see that my hand is up. I can see that in the mirror. So I correct that. Up, it's off. Needs to be at my solar plexus here. So this is easy to do. If I do this, say 20 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So it makes it easy for me to see what I'm doing. If I wanted to, say, for instance, knife hands. All right, so one of the biggest things I see with people doing their knife hand strikes is their hand is here. So they're doing like this little flippy type thing, instead of, again, their hand being straight. Same thing with my knife hand blocks. My hand shouldn't necessarily be up, although you see that a lot. It should be straight, because that's where my power is. Once I take my hand offline and tilt it, instead of on this straight line, now I've got that chance of having my wrist either sprained or even broken here. So, over the shoulder working. 1, 2, and where am I hitting? I'm thinking temple. I'm thinking the throat or the neck. I'm thinking the jaw. And for beginners, the hand comes to the ear and shoots out. And if you're more advanced, the hand comes straight up from the hip and snaps over. Again, not having a big tilt in my hand should be fairly straight. All right, palm strikes, same thing. Now my hand is up because I am just using the palm, this part of my hand, not the center, just the heel. Again, and I'm aiming all of these to where they need to be. I can do these slow because I'm working on my own. I don't have to keep up with the class. I can work these this fast. And this is fine. And maybe the only time that I've got for right now is as I'm waiting for the water to heat up in the shower. So that might take, say, a minute, 2 minutes. And I just practice at this speed. And this will make a huge, huge difference in your training. Okay, let's do some kicks. You can see again where if my kick's in the correct position, if my foot's in the correct position, and also because I have a countertop here, I've got to get my leg up above that countertop. So, again, I've got one step, which is probably about the size right in front of the mirror. Now, you might have a lot of room in front of your mirror, but maybe not. For me, in front of my bathroom mirror, I've got maybe a step and a half before you actually go into where the shower is. So I want to work, let me get this evened up here. I want to work some mirror techniques for my kicks. Now, kind of like we were talking about earlier, sometimes the problem we run into is people start kicking and their kicks are going every place. They're not straight, they're not hitting where they're supposed to hit. They're just out there. I know I'm supposed to kick that direction, so I'm just kicking that direction. Maybe I'm just flopping my leg out. Maybe I'm kicking and I'm just letting my leg drop. Maybe my foot's flopping around. Maybe I don't have a good position. My toes aren't pulled back correctly so I don't break those. My foot isn't out correctly. Maybe I'm kicking with my heel. Maybe I'm kicking with my toes. I see a lot of people that just kick with their toes. Obviously, if I kick somebody with my toes, I'm going to break my foot. So I want to get my toes curled back and bring my leg back in. Don't let it drop. If I let it drop, it's going to land on top of the counter. So our rule is my foot starts at my butt and ends at my butt. I don't just drop it down. So I'm just going to have my hands down for now. I might have them up. I might have them up here. I might have them out here. I might even have them at my hips. But for now, they're just going to be down. I'm just going to let them dangle because I'm just focusing on my foot and not what my hands are doing. So the first thing I'm going to work on is bringing my leg up as high as I can get it. Just get it up high. Whatever you can get, that's what you're looking for. Just getting your knee up to your chest. If you can't get it there, if you don't get to this point, that's okay too. We'll work on that. But getting your knee up high. And obviously you need to do that with both legs. And I would do that maybe 20 times. All right, so my legs are stretched, or they should be a little bit loose. So I'm not going to just hurt myself. Now I'm going to do the kick. My kick will come up, and wherever my knee points, that's where my snapping kick is going to go. So that's like the sight on my gun. If I'm here, that's where my kick is going to go. So I want to go up, and as it comes up, all at one time, instead of coming here and then trying to lift it up, it's going to go all at once and back down. And I want to kick at my solar plexus maybe. So I'm going to point my knee where my solar plexus would be in the mirror and snap my kick off. And I would do that again maybe 10 times each leg. And then maybe go to the chin. Okay, now let's do kicks to the chin. So again, I'm looking in the mirror, hands hanging down. And you can have your hands up, you can have them wherever you want. But don't worry about where your hand position is for right now. I'm just going to go right to the chin. So for me, I know the camera's over my shoulder, but for me, my kick is going right to my chin, so I can't see my chin in the mirror. Bring my knee up, snap it out, bring it back, and back down again. And the other foot. And the more of a snap I get into my technique, the more snap I have in bringing my leg backward again, the better that kick is going to be for two reasons. Number one, my opponent is less likely to grab my leg. And for anybody that's ever sparred before, having your opponent grab your leg happens a lot. And once they grab it, you're stuck. You're hopping around on one foot trying to get your punches in instead. So being able to kick out and back really quick is amazingly important for us. Another thing with snapping our leg back and hearing that pop, it kind of motivates you to kick harder and faster like that every time. And that motivation is a big, big difference in just throwing your leg out there and not really caring what's happening. You really can't, I guess, see this well, but my top is a pretty heavy top. So when I punch, I get this noise in there. And that noise motivates you. So I tell people for working your forms, the heavier top, the heavier pants you can have, although here in Texas they're kind of hot, the better it's going to be for you because you get used to hearing that snapping, popping sound. And you want to hear that again because it's kind of a cool sound. And that makes it a little easier for you to work harder, strangely enough. Okay, so those are our front kicks. Let's work our side kicks. I can do my side kick this way. So I can see myself in the mirror again. My foot should be turned a little bit sideways. And I'm kicking, for my side kick, I'm kicking with the outside edge right here of my foot. So I'm not kicking with this part. I'm not kicking with the toe area. I'm kicking with the heel area. Again, my foot should be straight with my leg instead of kind of flopping around. Now there are times that I might end up kicking with just the heel, especially like on a thrusting kick. But for now, let's just do this, a basic side kick and get our form down correctly. So from here, my knee comes up and goes out. Starts at my butt, ends at my butt. You can have your hands up, you can have your hand out in back of you, you can have your hands in front of you. I prefer having my hands in front, just because I like to have something between me and my opponent. But again, I'm just watching the mirror. Is my foot doing this? As I do my side kick, is my foot kind of at an angle, or is it flat? How's my balance? Am I falling forward? Am I falling backward? Do I have to hold on to the sink? Or can I just stand and stick my foot out? Bringing my knee up, out, and back in. And if I decide I want to throw punches in there with that, I can do that. But for now, again, just that kick out. Or, so I don't have to move the camera around. If I'm doing the other side, same thing. And just go into my stomach or to my belt. I don't have my belt on, I just realized. But if I did, I'm just going to that area. And again, I would do maybe 10 or 20 of these on each leg. Go slow and easy, hold it, bring it back, easy, bring it back, and then do some. They're a little faster. And then really start snapping it out. each time. Okay, so those are front kicks and side kicks. Let's think about roundhouse kicks. My roundhouse kick has to come up over the top of that counter if I'm coming forward. So I've got almost from the edge of the tripod to the wall, I've got about one step, one falling step. So I don't have a lot of room, but I've got to get my leg up over the top of that counter. So I'm going to go out and bring it back. Leg comes out. Again, my foot still starts at my butt and comes back to my butt each time. And as I kick, I'm not kicking with my toes, although if I had my shoes on, I would probably kick with my toes. I'm kicking, same thing with the ball of my foot as I come around. Hands down or wherever you want them. Up, out. My bracing foot, as I start my kick, will turn so it's facing sideways to the mirror. Then back down. Up, out, back down. Back down. All right, same thing, 10 on each side. Let's do some blocks. I'm going to go back to my horse stance, just because it makes it easier. Bring my hands to my hip bones, and I'll do an upper block first. Up, here. Is my hand tilted back? Make sure it's forward. Is my arm coming here so you can see my hair over the top of my arm? If so, it needs to go up. My upper block should be one fist distance out from my forehead, one fist distance up from my forehead. Same thing, maybe 20 on each side, or 20 total, 10 on each side. And look, do them slow. Up, hands a little up, bring it a little bit back down. You can tell if my hand starts doing this, and I can tell if I'm watching somebody and they're doing their blocks and their hand is straight with the bottom of their arm instead of straight with the top of their arm. Next would be middle blocks. So my middle block, come under my opposite elbow and slide along my arm. Again, fist straight. Making sure my other hand comes back to my hip bone. And my low block to my ear, down. This low block can either go low, like over my leg, and we do that a lot of times with our forms, is doing that low block over the leg, but it can also come straight this direction. Sometimes I can even do a middle sweeping block, and that's because I'm more erect here than if I'm leaning in to my low block, and I can even do this. In front of the mirror in the bathroom. But if I'm in a horse stance, here, here. I see a lot of people that do their middle or their low blocks like this. Just kind of comes from their chest someplace down. But one of the things, if you try this, if you play with this a little bit, and you should be playing with this a lot, if I do this, all I'm using is my tricep. As I do this, and you can feel it, all I'm using is this part of my arm. If I'll bring my hand up to my ear, so it may only come up 6 inches from where it was, But I can now feel, along with using my triceps, the back of my arm, I'm also using my lats, my shoulders here on top, my back. I'm even using my lower back with this, which makes this a much stronger block. And why am I using this low block? Probably somebody's kicking me. So I want to have a pretty strong low block. If I'm doing a low knife hand, same thing. I want that to be a strong technique so I can actually block that kick from hitting me. The last thing I want is to be hit while I'm sparring. Although it happens a lot, that's what we're practicing for. All right, so we've got front punches, palm strikes, front kicks and side kicks. We have upper blocks, middle blocks, and low blocks. All right, so over the shoulder, into the mirror in the bathroom, or the mirror on the back of a door in the bedroom or wherever, these are some of the techniques you can work on.